Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Meity Wajong from Indonesian Petroleum Association, and this is an association where the members are the players of upstream oil and gas, those who have the working area, but also companies that support the oil and gas activities. Okay. Uh, Actually, a lot of things already said by the three speakers before me. So even though I will say all many things the same, but I will give some input then. Okay, next slide. Yeah, okay. I would like to show this slide, a simple slide, actually much simpler than the one that showed before, just to say that Indonesia in the past was able to have the production that bigger than the consumption. But with the consumption, domestic consumption increase and increase, while start in 1999, Indonesia declining production continuously, then I think it's around 2003 that that our production, oil production is lower than the consumption. So that's when we start importing the oil. Okay, this is an important thing. I would like to show this just to show we have problem with import because import is not good. Uh, Indonesia lose the opportunity to have a lot of good benefit from multiplier effect if we import. Okay, during this transition time, going from the fossil energy to the clean energy, what is the focus of oil and gas? Next slide, please. The focus is about reducing the carbon emission. Would like to show you many of the data here already set before. Would like to show you the low carbon emission versus the oil and gas production. So you see that by 2030, Ibu Emma already mentioned about the plan to have 29 reducing GHG emission 29%, that's without the support from outside, and 41% if we get the support of the international support. If you see that 11% come from the energy sector, but that's total energy sector, not only the upstream oil and gas. So that include the power plant, include the transportation. Okay, and Pak Tutuka already mentioned that by 2060 or sooner, Indonesia would like to achieve the net zero emission, right? That's by increasing the use of renewable energy, reducing consumption of the fossil fuel, and promoting the CCS and CCUS. But by 2030, Indonesia would like to increase the production from the current level of 680, 700,000 per Fatar, right, to 1 million. And for gas, from the 6 BCF per day will become 12. Why? Why do we increase this? This is a transition, but we increase. Yes, because the need of the country. Indonesia would like to have economic growth. It's around, it's still under discussion, but let's say maybe 5% is fair enough. Next slide, please. And like mentioned already, that because of this economic growth, then we plan to have energy demand increase. And with that, even though the percentage of oil and gas reduced from 69% in 2015, it become 44 in 2050. Yeah, but that's the percentage. How about the volume? The volume increase. What is our option? Oh yes, we have to. We already mentioned about the three things, right? More renewable, better efficiency. But with all of that, it's still, the gap is still big. So the option is only to import, which is not good for the country. Because of that, then the oil and gas is still important, need to increase even from the current level, need to increase. Okay, so what are we going to do with this climate change then? Okay, next slide. Next slide, please. Well, the upstream oil and gas industry, we are committed. to work together with the government to meet the dual challenge. Wow, yes, now we have dual challenge. We talk a lot about this dual challenge started early this year, I think. Even only one challenge is already so difficult, but now we have dual challenge, right? To increase the production, the oil and gas production, but at the same time to lower the carbon emission. Okay. And to do this, right now, what we are thinking in the upstream oil and gas, that the CCS and CCUS is one of the strategic way to reduce the carbon emission. And we need to work together with the government here. Okay. One thing that we are now doing with the government, giving input to the government, is to rearrange the regulatory framework. We need to rearrange because the current policy that we have, the current regulation that we have, the PSC contract that we use now, it doesn't include the carbon emission reduction in a commercial way. Oh yeah, if we technically, yes, we do that, always, but how to do that commercially? We need to rearrange the regulatory framework. There should be a flexibility of financing scheme, the incentive, the cost and revenue treatment. Yeah. So, by the way, the government is now working on that, and IPA giving input. But I just want to mention that this is not something easy to do. Okay. And how about for the current operation that we already have? The companies are start looking for opportunity to lower emissions more than before. I would like to mention that because I don't want people to think that before we didn't think about lowering the emission, the GHG. No, that's not true. We already think a long time about lowering the emission in the current operation. But now we have to do more than before. For instance, now we are thinking about reducing the fugitive emission. Make it zero, the routine flaring, yeah, and use equipment that use more efficiently the fuel usage. Well, later the other speaker can talk about this technology, but the issue to me, if I see this, both for the new development or for the existing fields, there are two. One is about the economic, and number two is about the regulatory framework. And combining these two to the dates that we have our target, 2030 for the production and the 2060 for the net zero, is not easy. One thing that we need to do is that we need to change radically how to incentivize the industry to do it in a way that economically still acceptable. This is not the time to make little changes, but it should be a drastic changes. That's my point. We try to make a lot of changes, but usually just small changes. No, this should be revolutionary, not just a little bit. For instance, for the existing area, a lot of the fields are old fields. So economically, if you burden them more with changing equipment, then the economic will drop. It's not economic anymore to keep the production, for instance. And Pak Fatar already mentioned about the carbon tax. Yes, the carbon tax implementation in this industry will be 2025, I think. So we have 3 years to think about how to design that carbon tax, what is the reasonable level that we need to make decisions such that above that, then the carbon tax will be applied. So I would like to say that in these 2-3 years, we have to do a lot of things with a different mindset and willing to change differently compared with before. Only with that, I believe that we can achieve the dual challenge. Thank you very much. That's from me.